whatever you want. Please acknowledge the flag and I pledge allegiance.
Well, Kathy, he's really quiet though.
It's quiet. You have to go louder for some reason. Is there a way to up the volume? Go from here.
Well, we'll figure that out in the.
Oh, there, that's good.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Enjoy your breakfast.
We got the invocation.
Someone's gonna get a big fine today. That's all
I'm
I'm gonna say.
gonna.
2 weeks in a row, that's fine. 2 weeks in a row, you forget the most important part of the morning, which is a recognition of God's presence in our midst.
Yes.
Yes. Let our hearts and minds be an attitude of prayer. Gracious and loving God, as the leader of our human family, we give you thanks for the freedom we exercise and the many blessings of democracy we enjoy in the United States of America. We ask for your protection and guidance for all who devote themselves to the common good, working for justice and peace at home and around the world. We give thanks for people like the Rotarians who put service above self. We lift up our duly elected leaders and public servants, those who will serve us as president, as legislators, as judges, and those in the military and law enforcement. Let us pray for our nation in this time of reflection, some turmoil, and even a time of transition that may be difficult. May each of us in the United States soften our hearts with kindness, that we may listen to one another with respect, express our thoughts with humble clarity, and always seek the good in the other as we strive to form a more perfect union. Lord, I just ask that you heal us from our differences and unite us with a common purpose, dedication, and commitment to achieve liberty and justice for all in the years ahead for all people, and especially those who are most vulnerable in our midst. Bless our food this day, the hands that have prepared it, the farmers who have provided it, and our time together that we may use it to your service and to make the world a better place. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor Paul.
Hey, I'm putting you back on mute.
We have some announcements this morning, but prior to that, I thought, several members have run for public office, so I commend you, no matter the outcome. Obviously, you're putting yourselves out there, and it's something that it takes a very special person to be able to do that. So congratulations. Members who ran. Joyce Steele's not with us this morning, but I understand we're still looking for Strive members and for volunteers. And if you've done it in the past, thank you. And if you're considering doing it again this year, I understand it's a very rewarding thing to mentor these young people. So please consider that, and we're going to be starting that up really soon. Community service, both Sheila and Nancy aren't here this morning to give an update. Jim said he would give a quick update as to some of the projects he's worked on for the vets and upcoming, another upcoming project. Thank you, Jim.
You bet. We'll do this. Get my shiny head. The quick update, we have 2 projects. The first project is done. It was Roger and Nancy Gerke in Apple Valley. We did a handrail on their front step. They're an elderly couple that are struggling to stay in their home for as long as possible. So Gordy Erickson and I went Sunday morning and finished that. The other one is still in process. It's a couple in Lakeville. They have a son who was in a motorcycle accident in 2015. Has a TBI, traumatic brain injury, and he moved in with his wife and his kids, and then her mother moved in. This is Carrie, their last name is Adelman, they pronounce it Adelman, And so we're gonna do some door installation and base and window trim so that the kids can have their own bedrooms and stuff in the basement. So we'll be needing some volunteers for that with some carpentry skills, and nailer, because we'll be nailing trim and stuff on. So if you're interested, let me know, in helping out. We only need about 7 people, 8 people at the very most. Just let me know. Thanks.
Thank you, Jim, and thanks for, I understand you got some raspberry jam. I'm very grateful at that. And,
Yes, he puts up a lot of raspberry jam in his whole backyard, this Roger Turkey. And you've enjoyed that raspberry
Yes,
jam.
yes, I have. It's great on toast. Gluten-free toast, yes. Thank you, Jim. Kathy informed me that we're still looking, there's some spots open for bell ringing on December 4th. Pastor Paul just signed up. I've done it every year since I've been a member, and I can tell you how rewarding it is. Not just to see the smile on people's faces, whether you're bell ringing with Betty and Freddie Yeti, or with Pastor Paul, who, when people walk out at Cub, they're just giving them hugs. I got no hugs. But you're spending an hour and a half with another Rotarian, getting to share stories and learning about each other's families, that sort of thing. So if you haven't done it, I highly encourage you to do it. If you can sign up, perhaps even with someone who you haven't bell rang with in the past. Next, Mike is going to be, Hot Mike is giving a foundation update, and then he will be announcing our speaker. Thank you, Mike.
We kicked off our drive 3 weeks ago for our annual foundation. And that's that one where we tap everybody and ask for your contribution. The goal this year is, no, it's not the goal. I mean, the goal is to get to $40,000 or something like that. To me personally, what we're really being charged with is, as a club, it's to get every member to participate. And when we kicked this off, we sent out an email blast, and I guess it was 2 weeks ago at our meeting, we had 31 people that out of our club that had already filled out their form and made their commitment. So I emailed Kathy this morning or yesterday to get an update. After a week of trying to encourage you to participate, and we now have 32 people. So a week's gone by and we've only gotten one. I'm a little disappointed, and I was reflecting on that and thinking about just the year 2020 and things that in my life that I remember that really stood out. I remember when President Kennedy was assassinated. I can relive that time so easily. I remember the significance of 9/11. But I remember, and the thing that it was so impactful, 9/11. But as I was reflecting on all that, the really best part of, best isn't the right word. One of the most significant things as I reflect was not as much 9/11, but 9/12. And how, as a country, we weren't Republicans or Democrats. The lines at the blood donor centers, here I go again. They were miles long because people wanted to participate. They wanted to do the right thing. And now's the time to think about that stuff. And what Rotary does, they're doing good things for the world. And here's our chance to do that. So I'm just asking, if you haven't done complete your form yet, do. Because the alternative is this. We're gonna call you, and I would rather not have to make 60 phone calls. But it's gonna happen because everyone's gonna be accounted for. So my suggestion is this. Kathy is sending you the forms, everybody got email blast. fill the form out today, send it to Kathy. If you decide you don't want to donate, at least feel the need to participate. I mean, you can have 100 reasons why you can't. I understand that, and I appreciate it. But there's no excuse as a Rotarian not to help us raise the money. And so I'm asking that if you can't donate, at least volunteer to help make those phone calls. So I'll leave it at that. I hope at next week's announcement, I can say something better than 33. So with that, we have a speaker this morning. It's Paul Hofslien. He's from the Prior Lake Rotary Club. He's been a Rotarian for over 25 years. I've not met him personally, but that's a long time. He's served many positions, including treasurer, secretary, foundation chair, as well as president of their club. He's been on the district foundation team for the last 4 years. And he's the team lead for the district for the fund development. Paul's married, been married for 29 years, has 3 children. He's a financial planner in Prior Lake, and he considers Rotary his main charity of choice. So I'm introducing Paul. Paul, welcome.
Thank you, Mike.
We're glad you're here.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, everybody. I am going to just take a moment here to share my screen for the PowerPoint I have, but thank you for that. I really appreciate.
Something with the volume.
She's working on it.
Okay, keep talking.
I really appreciate the opportunity to present to your club here today during Foundation Month and during your drive for the Rotary Foundation. Of course, I'm speaking to a club that, quite frankly, is one of the stars in our district. Your club has done a fantastic job in raising money throughout the years, and I'm sure will continue on in future years. And this year, Mike, with where you're at right now, have the faith. I'm sure your club will respond to your leadership and will not disappoint you whatsoever. So I appreciate the opportunity to be here this morning. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the foundation this morning. I presented at your club, I think it was maybe a year ago. This is a little bit different. This is a different presentation. So those of you who might remember, my ugly face can rest assured that it is a different presentation. So if you do have a question on Zoom, put it in the chat room and hopefully we can get to that later. So let me get going here. So let me ask the first question here and kind of piggyback on Mike's opening is, what do we do as Rotarians? Okay, you've all probably been asked that by somebody, what is a Rotarian? Can be a difficult question. We do many things. We make a difference, but how? How do we make that difference? Well, one of the ways we do that is we create peace. And the definition of peace here, as you can see, is called the absence of war or violence. Now you say, we do much more than that, and you're right. And this definition actually is what we would term negative peace. It's just the absence of war or violence. That's all it is. That's negative peace. But we can reframe that just a little bit different when we want to talk about positive peace. And positive peace differs in that positive peace is the fulfillment of all needs in a society. Isn't that, really what we do as Rotarians? It's more encompassing. In today's environment, I believe this is more important than ever. Just think about some of the things that are going on in the world. More than 80 million people are displaced somehow. 30 million of those people are refugees, meaning they're not even in their own country. They've been displaced due to conflict, persecution, and the reduction of resources. This worldwide pandemic has killed more than 1 million people, impacted the world's economies, and caused a great amount of uncertainty, confusion, and anxiety, and impacting the lives of the already less fortunate dramatically. Recent events across the world and here in the States have also put the highlighted racial inequities that are going on. So we have, these are not all small things, these are not small things, and it really showcases the importance of working together. In all the situations I just mentioned, wouldn't the ultimate goal be a world with positive peace, where all needs are fulfilled in a just and fair society? Again, this is, I believe, one of the things that we do as Rotarians. We make a difference in the world by creating positive peace in our neighborhoods and around the world. And the Rotary Foundation helps us maximize our efforts. So we got to have a baseline for the foundation, and I'm just going to do a very brief history on the foundation. For a lot of you, hopefully this is just review. If you're a newer Rotarian, maybe this is new. But the Rotary Foundation was founded in 1917 by a gentleman by the name of Arch Clumpf. He was our 6th Rotary president, and he proposed creating an endowment to do good in the world. The first contribution into the foundation was $26.50, which today would be $540. And it was made by the Rotary Club of Kansas City, and no special reason there. They just had some money left over in their coffers at the end of the year and decided to send it into the foundation. Okay. The first donation went out of the foundation to an organization which is now known as the Easter Seals. Back then it was called the Society for Crippled Children. It's kind of interesting that Rotary's first donation went to an organization like Easter Seals, helping crippled children. And our main project today is with polio, which also is helping children and actually adults with polio. So over time, we as Rotarians have contributed over $5 billion to the foundation, something we can be very proud of. So real quickly here too, let me do a very high level on how the foundation works. Please don't have your eyes glass over. This will be brief as well. So you can contribute to 3 different areas of the foundation. You can contribute directly to Polio Plus. That money, obviously your club does that. Clubs do it on an individual basis or as a club overall. You can contribute to the endowment fund. In the endowment fund, a lot of times this money is coming from estates, people giving large donations from their estate at the time of their passing. The endowment fund is held there forever, and just the earnings are used for Rotary. And then you have the annual fund share, which is what Mike was talking about at the beginning of the meeting here, which is making your contribution to Rotary Foundation. And this money then is given to the foundation. It is invested there for 3 years. After 3 years, the money is split. So during those 3 years' time, what the Rotary Foundation is using is the earnings on that to help pay for any overhead that the foundation has. After 3 years, the money is split, and 50% of that stays with the Rotary Foundation, going to something called the World Fund. That's used for peace centers, global matches, and Polio Plus. The other 50% comes back to us. And this is the money that we use in district designated funds. When I say we, I mean our district uses this. So when you do a global grant, district grant, this is money that we can use to help do with grant matches. We use global grant scholarships, and of course we will also donate to Polio Plus. So this is very important when thinking about how much we are going to give to the Rotary Foundation. Now, Rotary has right now 6 areas of focus from a global grant standpoint. soon to be 7. They're adding an environmental area there. And we're looking at these 6 and looking at, again, how it relates to positive peace and how they can all lead there. Peace and conflict resolution. Let me just address that first. And an example of that is a project that was done in Prior Lake. It was upgrades to a passageway shelters. That is a place used as a shelter for victims of human trafficking. Lakeville was a funding partner on the classroom remodel, and here you can see some Rotarians working on this here a year or so ago. Some of the grants that you've sponsored help create a more peaceful environment for people in Lakeville too. You built a road biking trail in one grant. You did park benches in another. These are things that help people interact with others, interacting with others, leading to less conflict, hopefully, and more opportunities to exercise positive peace. So let's put peace on its side here and talk about the rest of the areas of focus. Okay, we'll start out with the P, representing peace or prevention of disease. Prevention of disease. And obviously here, the main one is polio eradication. And the broad background on polio was that we started helping kids in the Philippines be immunized back in 1979. Rotary helped establish the Global Polio Eradication Initiative in 1985, along with UNICEF, the CDC, and the WHO, and the Gates Foundation more recently. The Vaccine Alliance joined along the way as well. We've made great progress, as all of you know, but it's not done. It is not done in eradicating polio from the earth. Back in 1988, for historical purposes, this is what the map looked like for polio. All of these countries in red were endemic to polio, which means it occurred there. It occurred there. Now, fast forward that to 2020, and you can see we are now down to 2, Afghanistan and Pakistan. Most recently, Nigeria was taken off of the list for endemic cases of polio, and thus Africa became polio-free. So again, we are making progress. Back in 1988, we had 350,000 cases, basically 1,000 per day. And now we are less than 150 cases year to date. So, and because of Rotary and our focus on polio, we have structures in place. We have infrastructure in place so that it has actually helped when we've had outbreaks of, say, Ebola in 2016. It's actually helped with the COVID response because Rotarians have these infrastructures in place that we've been dealing with polio for years. So certainly we're looking at prevention of disease helping the world. Okay, next we would have the E, and that stands for education and literacy. And this is a couple pictures of a project down in Rochester where they had My Book Day. And people obviously coming in and reading to kids for the day, for the My Book Day. Last year, the Lakeville Year Club sponsored a grant to provide opportunities to at-risk teams through your Treehouse mission trip. They were able to learn skills and build confidence to have more success in their education, have a greater impact in society. Again, isn't that building positive peace? And your club is to be commended for that. Moving on to the A. So here we make a little bit of a reach. We're gonna use Spanish as our language, and the A will stand for agua. You see the acronym there, WASH, and the WASH standing for Water, Sanitation, and Hygiene. So here too, we have pictures of a project done in India that was creating a bathroom for girls. Around the world, restroom facilities are not available, as you probably realize. And quite frankly, girls stop going to school as they reach an age where they are menstruating because there's no clean and safe facilities. So they simply stop going to school. This school is in Agra, India. It went from 40 girls to over 400 girls within 2 years, of toilets being installed. Pretty tremendous result in just by having a place clean and safe. These pictures here are from Panama. The New Richmond Club spearheaded a project down in Panama to build latrines and hand washing stations there. When we provide these safe facilities, again, we're creating positive peace for these communities. The C, child and maternal health. The Hudson Club has participated in this, spearheaded with the International Village Clinic in India. Lakeville, again, you were a funding partner helping out with this. This is run by a Bloomington Rotarian, Abul Shara. He has been doing this. He's presented at our club several times. He's probably presented at your club. But his clinic started out in helping women who were going to give childbirth in India. At the time when he started this clinic, women in India were actually just going out into the woods, the fields, the forest, wherever to have their baby. As you can imagine, problems would arise with that, and the death rate would be rather dramatic. Now, Abul's village clinic here is treating or having preventative care for 250,000 people in his area. It has made just a tremendous difference in that area. Another project here is from St. Paul, ultrasound machines in Nabaki in Rwanda, which is an area that has 22,000 refugees. The surrounding area, over 35,000 people being served by providing an ultrasound machine in this area. Then finally we have the last one. So the last in peace is economic development. And here, of course, your club has been very active in providing economic development microloans for Iringa Hope in Tanzania. 206,000 grant yielded over $350,000. The income was used to send 1,000 kids to school, build 150 houses, created 121 full-time, almost 1,700 part-time jobs. Malnutrition in this area is at 28%, but among the borrowers, the users of these microloans, the malnutrition is 0. Again, a great example, and kudos to your club, also with your follow-up project in Tanzania to establish a warehouse so that they can store this food, which I believe is what you see on the right. Just a tremendous way that the foundation helps in the world creating positive peace. Now, there are, so I'm looking at making it a charity of choice. You heard Mike say that it is my charity of choice, and so we're gonna ask for you to would you consider it? Would you consider making Rotary Foundation a charity of your choice? Well, why? Why would you consider that? Well, it is efficient and effective. Charity Navigator has us listed as a top rated charity for 12 straight years. We have been in the top 5, and we have been number 1 back in 2018 for use of money. So that's one thing. Not every charity can say that, but you can have faith that the Rotary Foundation takes care of your money. You have a say. Again, going back to that slide that I had where 50% of that money comes back to us. So when we donated as a district $450,000 last year, in 3 years, we know that $225,000 is going to come back to District 5960 that we are going to be used to help our clubs who want to do global grants and district grants. We know that already. Okay, excuse me. And finally, it has broad and significant impact, 1.2 million Rotarians working together to be part of something special. So now, how much to give? And I'll kind of piggybacking here again on Mike. So first thing we're looking for is every Rotarian every year. Would you consider giving something? Okay, $25 to be every Rotarian every year. Would you consider being a 365 Rotarian? $1 a day, $365 a year, if you so can. And finally, if you so can, would you consider being a member of the Paul Harris Society through an automatic deduction, which is $83.34 per month, one time a month, going to the Rotary Foundation. You will be a Paul Harris Society member, which is $1,000 per year to the Rotary Foundation. Please consider if you can do any of those. Looking at the recognition opportunities, of course, you have the Paul Harris Fellowship. Once you give $1,000, as I just said, the Paul Harris Society, which is $1,000 per year. You can be a major donor, which is once you get to $10,000 given to the foundation. And then the Bequest Society, which is again done through an estate planning where money is going to go to the Rotary Foundation upon your passing according to your will or trust. So I talk a lot up there about the money, but we try not to say that it's just about the money or even those recognitions. People give to the foundation, I think, because of what's in their heart and because they feel that they're making a difference. We put many hours into service. It's the impact that we make on people. It's a positive peace we're creating in others' lives, growing local economies, teaching kids to read, preventing disease to mothers and their children. All of these things lead to a positive peace that the Rotary Foundation is helping out in the world. So in closing, I want to leave you with just a couple messages here. Be proud to be a Rotarian. Always be proud. Think of the things that you and your club are doing to bring positive peace. Look around what we're doing as a collective 1.2 million Rotarians around the world. And then the second message is think about what more you can do. We know that the world isn't getting any more peaceful. The needs of people are increasing. That means there's more for us to do. You might think about those needs and get overwhelmed. I do on occasion. It seems like, are we making a difference? And it reminds me of the story of the starfish on the beach. Some of you have probably heard this, but the story goes that a man went to the beach every day to start out his day with some reading, meditation. And one day he goes to the beach and sees thousands and thousands of starfish up on the beach, washed up from the shore. He looks in the distance and there's a little boy walking towards him, picking up starfish and throwing them back into the ocean. And he says to the boy, son, you can't possibly expect that you are going to save every starfish on this beach. The boy looks down and looks at the man picks up a starfish and says, "No, sir, I can't, but I can save this one." So I think that's what we're trying to do as Rotarians, is we can make a difference to individuals in the world. And finally leave you with a quote from a gentleman named Chris Boudjalayan, a writer. And here's the quote: "A single ordinary person still can make a difference. And single ordinary people are doing precisely that every day." Thank you very much for allowing me to speak to your club this morning. Thank you for all you do for the Rotary Foundation locally and in the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Does anyone have any questions with Paul? Sure. Here we go.
Are you familiar with the Hebrew concept of shalom? This worked together with the first King Solomon. Decided to create positive peace, and he taught his leaders about shalom. Many other people are familiar with shalom. Yeah. So what is shalom in terms of positive peace? You call your biblical history?
How is shalom is a way to peace?
Yeah, shalom is the Hebrew word. Greek is Aramaic. But the difference between Aramaic, Greek, or Latin, or Roman language is that shalom was a positive peace, where everybody was an absence of order. And what Solomon does, he set this kingdom in such a way that he provided for the people there would be peace. One of the first things to do is marry the queen of Egypt. So therefore he had no longer a battle with another neighboring nation. Some people disrespected the 800 plus concubines, but each of those were priests and offerings to other nations. That's a whole other story. He's a very peaceful king. But it was through his generosity and his wisdom he created positive peace. Shalom is a story for me.
There's today's history lesson.
Paul
Paul's got a response.
So I had a question about the Polio Plus District Committee points. And yes, during Polio Plus, and I'm not sure if it's still going on. It was focused on in the month of October, but if you were as an individual giving money to Polio Plus up to 365, the district was using points from members who had graciously donated their points, and you would be awarded a Paul Harris Fellow. Whether that's your first one or your 8th one, you would be awarded a Paul Harris Fellow. So for those of you that are participated in that, thank you as well.
Thank you.
Thank you again, Paul, for presenting today. Appreciate you joining our group. And while in some respects we compete with our neighboring club in Prior Lake, but we get a chance to come together and do good. And basically, too, Paul, thank you for explaining how the foundation works, because it can be quite complicated without the diagrams. As you mentioned before, Tree House, that's for every speaker we have this year, we give an honorary with their name to Tree House to help support them. And so thank you again for speaking. We really appreciate it. Now, Pastor Paul, would like to please apply.
So I was just reminded of a story when I heard Paul's wonderful story of the starfish on the shore. It's a beautiful story. Mine is similar to it. It's about a young man walking down the beach, and he sees a set of footprints as he's walking. And then he sees 2 sets of footprints. And he sees 1 set of footprints. And as he goes back and he looks on his life, he's wondering about this, and he asks Jesus, Lord, because what's going on with 2 footprints? And then 1 footprint says, did you leave me alone on the beach? And Jesus said, no. It was in those moments that I cared. You needed it most. And we talked about resilience in just a few seconds for our quiz for today. And then I had a dream myself. And it was very similar to the starfish. I was, there looking on the beach and seeing all these things I should do and needed to do. Then I saw a set of footprints. Then I saw these two round footprints that looked very unique to me. So I asked the Lord, I see the footprints here, and I see these other footprints that look different. Can you explain that to me? He goes, yeah. The first set of footprints are mine. The second footprints are yours. I see, actually, you were sitting on your butt. And so as you see the lines going on the beach, that's where I drug you, kicking and screaming. So my story is footprints on the sand, not the footprints on the sand. The Lord has seldom carried me. He's usually taking me kicking and screaming. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Resiliency. Resiliency. We have a little quiz to help you if you're watching online or if you're here in the room to help you be more resilient. During these difficult times, I think we could learn a little bit about resiliency and how to get through these difficult moments. So we'll pull it up here. I'm going to start with which table. Who wants to volunteer? The resilient people always volunteer. Over here. There, see, look at them. They jumped right on. There's typically, if you go to a number of resources, you can go from a psychological advantage resource, you can go from a financial advantage resource, you can go from a spiritual understanding. But all of them have common characteristics of resilient people. If you can give me 4 of the 8, I will save you a buck.
Persistence, grit, attitude.
Attitude, ding, 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 ding.
One up.
Humor.
Sorry. A lot of crafty people are still resilient. All right, man.
We're 1 for 4.
Anybody can give them a lifeline from up there? Anybody on the grid up there want to give them a lifeline? Anybody want to bail them out? Let them save a buck. You got a few guesses up there, Roger or Brian or Greg Paterka, Laura, Marshall. Crickets.
Is prayer one of them?
Actually, close. I'll give you half credit on spiritual resiliency. So no matter what your faith tradition is, but having an understanding of a higher power, there's something beyond this world, is one of the high indicators of people who get through during these difficult times. So excellent job, Lori. Any other guesses from our esteemed crowd? You're all going to pay anyway, so you might as well just guess. Nobody wants to guess? Well, we're going to go to the second table then and see if we can get them.
Wait for it.
We get paid, so pay a buck, and then we'll see if these guys can pay. Now I'll read them all off to you. So what is 4 of the 8 characteristics? You can name any 4, I'll give you credit. You heard one already, so they gave a bonus. That's, what was it you guys said? You get credit for it.
The grit.
Attitude.
Attitude. The extra term here is optimistic thinking patterns or optimistic attitude. What else would help you be resilient in these times? Patience is good, but it's not actually the one that we're looking for today. Sorry, according to a psychological journey, actually a lot of, unfortunately, resilient people aren't patient, but that's okay.
Those are just change.
I'll give you credit for that one. The true term of that is more like problem solving. Problem solving skills, the willingness to overcome problems rather than avoid them. The willingness to change is a big one. So I'll give credit for that one.
What courage.
I wish it was. I love that one, but it's not one of the ones they recognize. This is one you might not think of. A high emotional EQ. Emotional quotient, you know what that is? Some of our elected leaders need it. It means the ability to recognize their own emotions and the emotions of others, and not over-respond. You think of anybody that might beat that?
I have to think long and hard.
Think long and hard, okay. Well, I'm gonna take the bucks from them that they need it, but we're gonna go back here and see which careers, because I'm gonna find anybody that have these careers of resilient people, because they're the ones actually making money during this time. They're the ones that are actually surviving and doing well. So what careers, if you think of careers, I'll give you some bad ones first, so you don't name names. For example, since the COVID-19 outbreak has impacted all areas of the economy, according to statistics, 6.3% of tourism jobs could be lost during this time. 20% of all movie theaters will be closing. 20% of all religious gathering locations will be scheduled to close in the next 5 years. 1 out of 5 churches, mosques, and synagogues. Something to think about. Many of those were struggling prior to COVID, but now the finances have been really difficult. But I'll give you a happy story. Innovators in Resiliency has helped some religious organizations through Zooming, through YouTube, Facebook. There are a lot of attendance has gone up. I think we heard from Tom at the beginning that your church through online worship is actually larger than it was prior to COVID. I'll give you an example. I worked with a church, and I'm not a church, but a religious organization yesterday. Anybody been to the city of Plymouth and seen what they've done with their post office? The city of Plymouth decided to cut resources and money in their city planning, so they went to a full-time rental from a neighborhood mosque. So the post office uses it Monday through Friday, and the mosque uses it on the weekends. And because of that, they were able to keep their mosque open because it's being rented by the U.S. Postal Service. So partnerships are happening more and more in religious organizations. There are many churches downtown, they're now becoming flex office spaces, things like that, because they're becoming more resilient. So here are the careers, the most resilient careers. Can you guys name, what do you think are the most resilient careers during this time of difficulty, transition? Medical professions are one of them. Ding, ding, ding. So that would mean we have a couple medical professions like Marshall up there and others. That's going to cost you a buck because you're wealthy during this time. You're the ones making it, all right? Even if you're retired. Medical professionals, health aides, doctors, nurses, correct. Who else are doing okay during this time? Contractors, actually, you're correct. They're building in the midst of all this. Isn't that crazy? A lot of construction projects happening. Lots of road projects. What else? Banking and financial planners are doing quite well during this time. Yep. And also our realtors, believe it or not. So that's going to cost you another buck because you're doing really good. But since you're doing well, you're getting paid a buck too. You're doing well, right? So you financial guys, that's okay. So that's you, Jim. So if you're doing well, take another buck in because you're the one holding up the economy. Way to go. That's it. I'll give you some other ones. Do we have any software engineers in the group? Software engineers. Your software engineer costs you a buck because you're doing really well during this time. As are online learning. Anyone who's dealing with that, teaching with it? I don't know if you know this, but according to the United Nations and Rotary International, 1.3 billion children are currently out of school worldwide. Just think about that. 1.3 billion children. Now the sad news is less than half of those are able to do online learning or go to some type of school during this time. So if you're in India, Pakistan, Kazakhstan, Czech Republic, my missionary friends are sending over curriculum to them because they can't have access to any of these things, and many of them don't have the online opportunities that we have here in the United States. So it's definitely a concern for a whole generation of young children around the world. But children are also on that list of resiliency. Isn't that good? Because our kids are resilient. So ready for a question for the grid up here? You guys ready for it? What's an example in terms of a trait that you can see in Rotary that would make people resilient? You know our club, you know who we are, you know what we do. What are the things that Rotary does, as he said, positive peace, to make our world a more resilient place?
Generosity.
Ding, 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 ding. Now, Clint, didn't you just stop in here a little bit ago?
He won't hear.
Yes, I did.
Both places.
I agree with Clint.
Yep, generosity. When you think of the needs of others other than yourself, as Paul mentioned to us, there's a sense of resiliency because we're in that optimism, that we think the world can be a better place. And Clint, I saw
Increased communication.
What'd you say?
Increased communication.
Increased communication. We're learning about the things like we are today of this world that need fixing, right? Excellent, Marshall. What are some other things that Rotary does for positive peace?
Service.
Service. Yep.
Mentoring of youth for leadership and just being successful.
Yep. I'm going to give you one because you're all going to pay a buck anyway that you didn't get. But it's actually one of the number one things that Rotary does, club local. It's called social connections and social, they actually call it back to the word grit, but a sense of when you have a social network of people you love and trust and who love and trust you, you can get through the hard times. So I just want to let you know, I love and trust many of you up there and in this room, there are times when I struggle, and I think of the people here like this morning when I didn't want to get out of bed. Like, I make it here anyway. Because this social network of people in this room and on the screen are people I love and trust. And if I have a problem in our community, I think of you, and I think of who I can call and who can I network with to make our community a better place. So thank you for who you are and what you do.
We'd like to start the Happy Dollars with Richard, and as we're walking the microphone back to them, I wanted to acknowledge that Clint Kennedy did indeed come in here this morning, and for some reason he had a happy $20, so we'll let him address that. I figured that was obvious, but he'd be dropping off a bunch of Happy Dollars. But Richard.
Okay, first, next week, will be the first taste of Lakeville meeting. And so again, a huge assumption of Adam and myself is that everybody who was on the team last year is staying on the team this year. But if there's any changes, please let us know. And if you're new to the club or want to join, give us a holler, Adam or I, and welcome aboard. The Happy $5 is, I guess it's going to be right after, keep it as short as possible, right after next week's meeting. Happy $5 is the Rutherford City Council had a lot of support from a lot of Rotarians, and I greatly support it or appreciate it. Nice job.
Thank you, Richard. So literally thousands of people supported and voted for him. So.
Other Happy Dollars in the room or online? Mr. Cooper?
This Happy Dollars for Judy Gallagher, and congratulations on her re-election to the school board. I served on the school board back in Iowa, and I know what kind of commitment that is. And she's been doing this for over 20 years, so thank you. When I think of Judy, I also think of Frank Chauvin. And Frank always used to ask, he always wanted to tell a joke, and he'd ask Judy if it was okay. So I thought it might be, well, I was thinking of Frank right now. And I did have a chance to ask Judy, but this joke does have nudity in it. So I'm going to tell it anyway. So this woman had called the police department. It was an elderly woman, and she lived in New York, one of those high-rise apartment buildings, and they called the police that her neighbor was walking around his apartment naked, and she was offended by that. And so the police came to her apartment, and she pointed to the apartment across the street and said, "This is where the guy walks around naked." And the police officer's looking around, and he says, "Well, you can't even see in that apartment." And she said, "Sure you can. All you have to do is push this chair over here and climb up on the dresser."
Yes.
Well, there we go. That wasn't definitely Frank quality. Very good. Any other Happy Dollars? I have one for Rachel. I think she's not on right now, but she is on. I don't know, I saw her earlier, that she made another trip around the sun, and we celebrated her birthday. She's still under the 3-0 mark for one more year. And so it's a joy to have her on the Halloween blizzard, November 1st, 1991. And I had to deliver her myself because the doctor didn't show up. So drove my VW microbus to downtown St. Paul with rear-wheel drive, got out about every 15 minutes and shoveled. Finally got down to the hospital where I was supposed to be, and they had shut down the birthing unit. So I pulled my wife out of the car. She was already about fully dilated and having done enough sheep. I just tried to encourage her and say, "You know, honey, I've delivered a lot of sheep. I just grab the clothes and yank them out. I can do this." And so I took her in, and emergency was full, so I took her up to the second floor, found an empty bed. And then I started calling on the phone to frantically to the emergency room, saying, "I'm upstairs on the second floor, will somebody come up and help me?" And eventually sent the nurse up. And 15 minutes after I got there, Rachel was born. And she's still mad to me to this day because I had to cut her umbilical cord, and I didn't stuff it in part. So she got the half in, half out. I said, "I used to cut the sheep's tails off. I'm not used to umbilical cords." But she made it on that blizzard day, and I survived delivering a baby, so it's all good.
Fantastic. Thanks for the way you're going to find a host.
We're almost coming.
think Clint Kennedy did want to acknowledge a happy ring up there a second ago. Clint?
Yes, I'm in. I'm happy. I want to report that my son Robert became engaged last Thursday after being patient. His intended had asked that she be allowed to ask him instead of him asking her, which kind of implies that they'd already decided to be engaged. But she actually got to ask him to marry her, and that happened last Thursday.
Congratulations to your family, Clint. Any more happy dogs? Okay, we're pulling a lucky number. Bingo. 997. 997.
Oh, Mike.
Oh, Miss Hot Mike won the $10. Oh, and these have been very gracious. Thank you. I think that pretty much concludes our meeting for today. So we will start with the end with the four-way test. Being drives. And the things we think, say, and do is the truth.
That if you're all concerned, will without friendships, will be beneficial to all concerned.
Be careful out there.